Good morning, everyone. On this September 20th, yesterday in the Washington Journal, we heard from women only across the country on whether Judge Brett Kavanaugh should be confirmed by the Senate to the Supreme Court. This morning, we want to hear from men only. If you're under 30, 202-748-8000. Between the ages of 30 and 50, 202-748-8001. And those over 51, your number, 202-748-8002. Join us on Twitter and Facebook as well at C-SPAN WJ or facebook.com/C-SPAN. Men only this morning. Should Brett Kavanaugh be confirmed? President Trump weighed in on the nomination and hearing from the accuser of these allegations, Christy Blasey Ford, yesterday before he left to tour the impact of Hurricane Florence. Here's what he had to say.
I'd really want to see her. I really would want to see what she has to say. But I want to give it all the time they need. They've already given it time. They've delayed a major hearing. There's no more just about, look, when I first decided to run, everybody said the single most important thing you do is a Supreme Court justice, okay? We've all heard that many times about a president. I would say this. I think he's an extraordinary man. I think he's a man of great intellect, as I've been telling you, and he has an unblemished record. This is a very tough thing for him and his family. And we want to get it over with. At the same time, we want to give tremendous amounts of time. If she shows up, that would be wonderful. If she doesn't show up, that would be unfortunate.
That was the president yesterday. We want to hear from men only this morning, as we heard from women yesterday. What do you think should happen? The Judiciary Committee in the Senate has said a hearing should take place Monday where they would hear from Professor Christy Blasey Ford about her accusations, and Judge Kavanaugh would also get an opportunity to testify. Yesterday, the Judiciary Chairman Chuck Grassley said they need to hear from Professor Ford by 10 a.m. Friday on whether or not she will be testifying. Democrats, led by Senator Dick Durbin, in this series of tweets, have laid out this argument. Senate Republicans have tried to rig the process against Dr. Blasey Ford. No neutral investigation, no other witnesses, and now they seem happy that she won't commit to a partisan ambush. They think this makes it easier for them to judge for Brett Kavanaugh. That's insulting. America's watching how the Senate handles Dr. Blasey Ford's serious, credible allegations. This is not a typical partisan fight over process. This goes to fundamental questions about whether survivors of sexual assault will be treated with dignity and respect. And he also said, we're dealing with a lifetime appointment to the Supreme Court. If Republicans vote to confirm Brett Kavanaugh, Americans can't vote him out. If confirmed, he'll be deciding cases affecting our health, safety, and privacy for decades. Republicans are comfortable with that. And Senator Dianne Feinstein, who's at the center of this letter that was sent by Professor Ford, she tweeting out yesterday, in 1991, the FBI reopened a background investigation. Anita Hill and Clarence Thomas were interviewed. Every day, more people came forward claiming firsthand knowledge of the events. It's time for the FBI to do the same today. Why are Republicans resisting an investigation? And if you look at the polls across the country on Brett Kavanaugh and the confirmation when asked if he should be confirmed, they break it down in this Economist YouGov poll by men saying 44% saying he should be confirmed, women 27%. And this was done between September 16th and 18th. And then look at the numbers for sexual harassment. A very serious problem in the United States. Men say 35% men say yes, 50% of women. So let's go to the phones. Matt in Bath, New York. Good morning to you, Matt. What do you think of all this?
Good morning. Am I still on?
You are. Go ahead.
Okay, because I heard a dong. Anyways, of course he should be confirmed. This is a drive-by. That's what it is. I keep hearing that this is the same as Anita Hill. The only thing that's the same, in my opinion, is they're both lying. They're both lying. This whole thing, now all of a sudden they want to move the goalposts. They want to do this. They want to do that. But she's not prepared. is ridiculous. She sent a letter in July. She supposedly has been talking to her therapist. She supposedly talked to this person, that person, and the other person. So why can't she just answer the questions? It's ridiculous. I think I thought then that Anita Hill was lying. I think she's lying. And they say, well, this poor woman is putting herself out there. Well, guess what? She'll end up getting offers for made-for-TV movies, book offers. She'll be the darling of the left, getting paid to talk here, there, and the other place, and probably get offered a chair at some university for women's studies. So, yeah, it's the whole thing stinks.
So, Matt, do you think she's lying because you think she's playing a political game? Is that your calculation?
Exactly. This whole thing stinks up the high heaven of political gamemanship, and the Democrats, and especially Dianne Feinstein, I think she was playing to her left because she's in trouble with her left for her reelection. And it's any reasonable thinking person can see right through this whole charade. I'm sorry, but and yeah, there are legitimate cases, but I'd like to remind everybody about Duke Lacrosse. I'd like to remind people that there have been cases that were, yes, women can lie. They're not saints, and this poor woman putting through so much. We just hear today about Elizabeth Smart. Now there is a young lady that's really been put through the ringer, and she's strong, and she's what the modern feminism's supposed to be about, being strong, not playing, oh, poor me, I'm the victim. And I'm sorry, that's how I see this.
Okay, all right, Matt. Well, one of the attorneys for Christy Blasey Ford yesterday put out a statement. CNN has the story saying this is a rush to a hearing and called it unnecessary and contrary to the committee discovering the truth. Banks added that Ford has been thrust into the spotlight and isn't able to go home because she's receiving threats to her and her family's safety. She has relocated her family, according to the newspapers. Anita Hill wrote an op-ed in yesterday's New York Times, and in it she said, "Do not rush these hearings. Doing so would not only signal that sexual assault accusations are not important, hastily appraising this situation will very likely lead to facts being overlooked that are necessary for the Senate and the public to evaluate. That the committee plans to hold a hearing this coming Monday is discouraging. Simply put, a week's preparation is not enough time for meaningful inquiry into various very serious charges." And so, Professor Ford, her lawyers have until 10 a.m. tomorrow to tell the committee whether or not she will be testifying on Monday. Let's go to Ron, who's in West Chesterfield, New Hampshire, 51 and over. Good morning, Ron. You are on the air.
Hey, good morning. Thank you very much, C-SPAN. I always love this show. You guys always have the greatest guest experts to learn from. No, I don't think he should be confirmed. I do not think he should be confirmed. This lady seems very credible. My gosh, she's a professor. This happened 37 years ago, and I think a teenage Brett Kavanaugh is probably a little different from an elderly Brett Kavanaugh, and it's very, very conceivable that it happened. And why rush the hearings? Well, we know why to rush the hearings, because Donald Trump needs this judge on the court to help insulate him from the impeachment process and from all the breadcrumbs that are leading right to the White House. Most of his original staff is in jail. They may have to open a whole jail just for the administration, because they're so corrupt and they've got this Russia investigation, and that's why Trump wants this guy on the court to help insulate him. He's already said that once he gets on the court, he doesn't believe that a president should be above the law. And nobody is supposed to be above the law in this country. But this judge believes it, that at least the president should be. And that's the only reason why they're rushing him to get on this court, is so that he can help insulate this president from prosecution and possible impeachment proceedings.
Ron, how do you respond to the National Review, the conservative magazine? They write, if foes of Kavanaugh are determined to implement a new standard, that the accusation itself is sufficient evidence of guilt, that the new standard will be that new standard will be implemented for figures in both parties, whether they realize it or not. If you believe that Bill Clinton, Al Gore, Keith Ellison, Al Franken, and Bobby Scott are falsely accused, while Brett Kavanaugh, Clarence Thomas, and Donald Trump, Blake Farenthold, Roy Moore, and Eric Greitens are all guilty as sin, or vice versa, you're part of the problem.
No, I don't see it that way at all. I had an answer for you, but your question went on a little too long, and I kind of lost my train of thought. But the thing of it is that what's the problem in holding off for another week or two on this hearing? I mean, why is it being rushed through? Why can't you give this lady another week or so to gather up her evidence and her witnesses and things like that? The only reason it's being rushed is to get him on the court so that he can insulate Trump. There's no reason why they can't hold off for another week or two and give this lady a fair opportunity to come in with her evidence and show it.
Okay.
But they're not going to do that because, again, it's all political, and Donald Trump, it may be the only saving grace for Donald Trump because, like I say, the breadcrumbs are leading right to the White House, and the hound dogs are on his trail.
Okay. All right, Ron. Christopher in Oklahoma. Christopher, good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
What do you think?
I just have a comment. Just the fact that this guy could be confirmed and be in the Supreme Court and could possibly, one day lead to overturning Roe v. Wade. And he was a member of a club at Yale that, celebrated promiscuity and binge drinking, which, I don't know, it just seems kind of a strange mix there that he would be in the position to overturn that. Seems like he flipped.
Okay, Christopher, how old are you?
I'm 40.
Okay. Maurice, who's under 30 in Fayetteville, Georgia. Maurice, what do you think?
I think, no, he shouldn't be confirmed. I don't understand what's the rush. I mean, from what I saw on television in 1991, the two senators that was there, they said that they want a FBI investigation about Anita Hill. So I don't understand what's the rush.
Okay. Eric, White Plains, Maryland, between the age of 30 and 50. Eric, good morning.
Yes, good morning, and thank you. Thanks a lot for allowing me to speak this morning. Definitely, I think that the judge should be confirmed. What really concerned me, and this is for both parties, politics is destroying our country. I mean, since when an allegation, I'm talking about an allegation, can destroy the life of a man without even the benefit of checking what really happened? I'm really concerned about the Me Too movement because now any allegation is considered as the truth by the left. I heard Chuck Schumer. Chuck Schumer said that he believed the woman. He already saying things to men. The man didn't even have the chance to defend himself. And now the lady doesn't even want to come and explain exactly what happened. So the left is actually using her, and she doesn't even realize it. So I think it's really sad that during all the confirmation process, the Democrats never brought that issue up. They wait now to play political games. So I'm very concerned.
Okay. Well, of course, it's moderate Republicans in the Senate who hold the key to whether or not the full Senate could confirm Judge Brett Kavanaugh, with Democrats saying Most Democrats saying that they will oppose him. And one of those senators is Susan Collins, Republican of Maine. She tweeted this out yesterday. I hope that Dr. Ford will reconsider and testify before the Senate Judiciary Committee on Monday. It is my understanding that the committee has offered to hold either a public or private session, whichever would make her more comfortable. And according to the Washington Post, the chairman, Chuck Grassley, Republican of Iowa, has left open the possibility that the hearing could occur Monday with only Judge Kavanaugh present. Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell believes he has his conference unified behind a plan for a Monday hearing, which includes building extensive timelines on Ford's story and media accounts with or without her. Even as Ford and Democrats push for an FBI probe, Trump has suggested that an FBI investigation is unnecessary. But there is precedent for the FBI stepping in late in the process of a Supreme Court nomination, as many of you discussed. In 1999, when law professor Anita Hill alleged that now Justice Clarence Thomas had sexually harassed her, the FBI was called in to investigate. The FBI reiterated Wednesday that it had included information about the allegation in Kavanaugh's background file and that it is up to the White House to decide what to do with it. A criminal inquiry is essentially out of the question because what is alleged does not constitute a federal crime. It should be handled on the state level, or is typically handled on the state level, according to news reports. Senator Hatch, member of the Judiciary Committee, tweeting out reminder. The Senate has received 2 official letters from witnesses named by Dr. Ford, both denying any knowledge of events she's described. These letters, addressed to the chairman and the ranking member, serve the same purpose as sworn testimony in a hearing. By taking a serious matter and turning it into a political football, Senate Democrats have done a massive disservice to Dr. Ford and to victims everywhere. What do all of you think? We're talking to men only this morning as we talked to women only yesterday. Art in Moreno Valley, California, 51 and over. Good morning to you, Art. Go ahead.
Good morning. Thanks for taking my call. Judge Kavanaugh should be confirmed, but they should listen to Dr. Ford, and Senator Grassley's making every effort to allow Dr. Ford to come to Washington, or the senator was going to send a staff to California to listen to her and give her a chance to tell her story. But I think that Judge Kavanaugh should be confirmed.
And Art, do you think this should be done in public, or are you okay with private testimony by both Judge Kavanaugh and Professor Ford?
Excuse me, I'm sorry. It should be done, and if the doctor wants to do it in private, let her do it in private. If the judge wants to do it in private, do it in private. Whatever they want to do to accommodate them. But it sat on Senator Feinstein's desk for 2 months.
Well, she said because she was respecting her privacy, and she was the letter only came to surface. She only discussed the letter once the media had made it public.
Right. But I haven't heard anything from Senator Feinstein in the last few days. But I think he should be confirmed. And I think Dr. Ford should get her due process. But I heard on my newspaper, the Press Enterprise, this morning, I read it, just the headline, it said she wasn't going to testify. So why should we hold up the confirmation hearings?
Yeah, well, she hasn't ruled it out totally, according to her lawyer. Okay. And the Senate Judiciary Committee has said they need to hear by 10 a.m. tomorrow about whether or not she's going to be testifying. That they say Monday is it. They're having this hearing on Monday to hear from her. And according to Senator Collins, Senate Judiciary Chair Chuck Grassley has given her the options of in private, in public, and for her maybe to just talk to congressional investigators rather than senators. So it hasn't been ruled out, but her lawyer is saying we're rushing and that they would like to see an FBI investigation first. The Senate Judiciary Committee from the majority side, Senator Chuck Grassley's side, had this tweet. Committee majority has yet to see the original unredacted letter from Dr. Blasey Ford to Senator Feinstein. Pablo in Gainesville, Georgia, between the age of 30 and 50, and you are on the air. Good morning to you, sir.
Yeah, I'm here.
Pablo, go ahead. What do you think? Should Judge Brett Kavanaugh be confirmed? You're on the air, sir.
Yeah, I would say no. I don't think he should be confirmed. Because first of all, before the accusation that came up, I think it's been, a shame with the way the whole process is being handled and the way people are being pushed aside and questions are being avoided. The U.S. has also set an example to the rest of the world, and I think that isn't a good example. On the other hand, you have a lady who's coming up with some accusation or whatever the case may be. I think the right thing to do is have the FBI investigate that and validate whatever accusations are being made. After that, the Senate can go ahead and do their hearing. Because if for whatever reason they go ahead with the Senate hearing and she says it happened and Kavanaugh says it didn't happen, how then do they move forward? Are they going to pass judgment based on, on what basis are they going to pass judgment? So why don't we let the FBI or whoever is going to investigate this validate the claims, put some substance to it, put some more information together, and give it to the House, to the committee. Based on that information, they can set up their questions and decide on how best to move forward. But at this point, like I said, I've been watching the hearings for the last couple of weeks, and it's really shameful. It's highly partisan. I'm not trying to be Democrat or Republican, but I'm trying to look at it from a fair perspective. It's just a shame. This is the way the system is going to be set up. It's implemented every 8 years. The system is just going to be overhauled, and it's just a big shame, though. Okay. I think he shouldn't be confirmed.
Okay, James, Louise, Texas. James, good morning to you. How old are you, sir?
Good morning. About 54, 55 years old.
Okay.
Here's a couple of simple points I want to make real quick. I'm going to apply a little bit of common sense. First and foremost, it has become the accusation is enough in the eyes of the media, regardless whether there's fact, whether there's innuendo, whether there is substance. It is simply the allegation that is enough toward anyone in most cases. Second of all, pointed out in a comment just a little while ago when you were reading that the FBI has declined any sort of criminal investigative process here because it does not rise to the level of a federal crime. The Democrats and those potentially on the left or who oppose the nomination are literally asking the FBI to do things that are against the law, that would violate Kavanaugh's civil rights by investigating a crime or an alleged crime that is not a federal prosecution. Next and final, and I'm going to maybe anger some folks, and I don't mean to. The fact is, what we're talking about here is a he said, she said from someone's school days. There are men, there are women from first grade through their college years that have done stupid things in various contexts in one way or another. To preclude an individual, male or female, from moving forward in a chosen career path because of an act of stupidity, and I'm not talking about illegality here, I'm talking about stupidity, that essentially says you are now precluded because we think you're that stupid for all time. Thanks for your time, folks. C-SPAN, you're great.
Okay. James' thoughts there in Texas. The Washington Times notes that the list of red state Democrats on the fence shrank Wednesday when Senator Claire McCaskill sent out this tweet: "I will vote no on Judge Kavanaugh." And she said her decision was based on his record on campaign finance regulations, not the attempted sexual assault accusation. President Trump is traveling to Missouri today. Excuse me, on Friday. He's in Las Vegas today. He'll be on the campaign trail Friday in Missouri, where he's rallying with the Missouri Attorney General Josh Hawley, who is challenging Claire McCaskill for that seat, and he's likely the Washington Times says, have a chance to test drive his Kavanaugh message on the campaign trail. Mr. Hawley and is likely to address Ms. McCaskill's announced stance on the nominee. Mr. Hawley called her decision no surprise. Claire McCaskill is now 0 for 6 on Supreme Court nominees. He said she has sided with Chuck Schumer every single time for liberals and against Missouri. The other red state Democrats are, of course, Heidi Heitkamp, Joe Manchin, and Joe Donnelly have joined their Democratic colleagues in insisting that Miss Blasey Ford get the chance to speak before a final vote, though they went silent after the professor demanded a list of conditions, including an FBI investigation before she would be willing to testify, conditions that the Republican-led Senate Judiciary Committee rejected yesterday. What do all of you think? Oh, before we get to more of your calls, though, let's bring in this tweet as well from Senator Cortez Masto, a Democrat from Nevada. While I unfortunately didn't get a chance to sit down and discuss my concerns with Judge Kavanaugh, it's clear that Brett Kavanaugh is a threat to women's rights, and I look forward to voting no on this nominee because nothing less than a woman's right to choose is on the line. Let's go to Ted in Shelton, Washington, who's 51 and over. Good morning to you, Ted. Go ahead.
Nice talking to you guys. The guy a couple of times ago talking about how everybody deserves the right to a proper investigation. And right now, there hasn't been one. The FBI, when they did their report on that, did notice that this letter was there. And as I said earlier from the CNN report, it's up to the president whether to have the FBI go any further and investigate the letter that was done. This is, as an independent, I've been watching this Congress, and I wouldn't want to go sit down and talk to those guys. They're so biased that she'll never get a fair hearing. 4 of the guys on the Anita Hill are still active there and still doing it. And that there, if you looked at Anita Hill and went back and looked at her hearing, it was a doggone witch hunt, is what Trump wants to use. Let's talk witch hunt. This is a witch hunt, and I think that until a proper investigation has been done, then we need to go ahead and wait until then to confirm somebody, because it's very important to all of us who's going to be on the Supreme Court. And I think that the way the Republicans have been handling this and what they did to Obama by holding up all these elections are judge appointments, and have now gone ahead and stuffed the courts with people that back the rich and employers. So all these rulings we're getting out of the Supreme Court, Citizens United, this last one on labor, it's all bad. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Ted. And Ted mentions the Anita Hill hearings. There's 15 hours of testimony from those hearings, and you can go to our website, cspan.org, if you're interested in watching portions of them. JD in Elkton, Maryland. Hi, JD. How old are you, and what do you think about Judge Kavanaugh?
Good morning. Good morning, ma'am. I kind of made a mistake on the line. I'm 52.
Okay, that's all right.
So I apologize for that. Yeah, I think Kavanaugh should be confirmed. I think, Feinstein, as an officer of the court, because she's a lawyer, she took criminal allegations and she held on to them for several months. She should be disbarred.
Well, the FBI is saying this is not a federal crime. No crime. A federal crime was not committed.
Well, you're saying that there's criminal allegations. As a retired police officer, actually state trooper, who investigated those type of crimes, I can tell you what the protocol is. The lady who claims she's the victim should have contacted Montgomery County. Montgomery County handles alleged crimes such as she's described.
Okay.
They have agreements. Montgomery County has agreements with the state. They handle all Part 1 crimes. The FBI doesn't handle those type of crimes.
Right.
Let me clear something up for your viewers and your listeners. The FBI in the Anita Hill, Clarence Thomas case, they were both federal employees. That's what the difference is. But you have all these experts that call in claiming to know everything about criminal procedure when they don't. And I'll reiterate, Feinstein needs to be disbarred. It was a criminal allegation. That's what you and the Democrats are saying. It needs to be investigated as a criminal allegation. And now you want to backstroke and say it's not? I don't get you, Greta. I don't get you at all.
No. I appreciate your explanation that this should be investigated on a state level. I was just reiterating from the newspapers that the FBI is saying this is not a federal crime. They wouldn't handle it because it's not a federal crime. So you laid out the argument of how it should be handled and also the difference between Anita Hill in this situation.
Ma'am, it's not just an argument. It's a fact.
Yes.
It's a fact. She needs to go to Montgomery County Police Department and file a complaint if she believes that these criminal allegations are true in her mind. And that's where it needs to start.
Right.
But Feinstein needs to be disbarred because she's an officer of the court. She's not only a politician, she's a lawyer, and a lawyer has an obligation to report such an alleged crime. Now, there needs to be people that call into her office and request that she step down and be disbarred. And that's what needs to happen.
Okay.
I appreciate having me on. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, JD there in Elkton, Maryland. Keith in Woodbridge, Virginia. Hi, Keith. Good morning. Go ahead.
Good morning, Greta. How are you this morning?
Doing well.
Okay. I'm going to approach this from a different perspective. I'm going to approach it from the background perspective as a retired military officer and federal employee that held some high security clearances. I will let you know that, first of all, he should not be confirmed until an investigation is done, not necessarily by the FBI, but by personnel investigators if it's not a crime for this reason. There are many people who are precluded from service for such allegations, not convictions, not proof, but just allegations. I know people who were barred from the White House clearances because of allegations, and I'm talking about in the past, as far as elementary school. So, number one, that should happen. I would tell you that if Mr. Grassley were doing this and this was a Democratic appointee, he'll postpone it indefinitely. We saw that with Merrick Garland, and Merrick Garland was highly qualified and didn't even get to the point of a background investigation. Number two, the investigation is used, by many for for positions of responsibility in the government. This is something that impacts that. And then number three, we should repeat the mistakes of the Clarence Thomas appointment, i.e. Anita Hill, what you talked about. We keep forgetting that this lady is potentially and probably a victim. And we gloss over that for our own political purposes. Like JD, Mr. Expert, he needs to go back and understand what investigations are needed for. They're needed to make sure that we have the proper people serving in government, the proper positions, who have the proper qualifications by character as well as by technical expert. Thank you very much.
All right, Keith. Well, the Wall Street Journal editorial board politicizing the FBI, they write this, that under the Constitution, the Senate is the ultimate judge of the fitness of a nominee appointed by the president. In this case, senators must assess whether they think Ms. Ford's allegations are credible enough to disqualify Judge Kavanaugh. The Senate can't abdicate that task to the FBI, much less order an executive branch agency to do its own advising and consenting. They go on to write that some on the left are pointing to what they claim is the Anita Hill precedent, because the FBI interviewed witnesses after she made her allegations against Clarence Thomas in 1991. But as Mr. Grassley pointed out Wednesday in a letter to Democrats, the FBI did that when Ms. Hill's allegations were still private. Judiciary Chairman Joe Biden at the time promptly notified the White House, which directed the FBI to conduct a handful of interviews within a few days. After Ms. Hill's charges leaked, Mr. Biden reopened a hearing within 5 days. Quote, "We are in the same position the committee was in after Professor Hill's allegations were leaked. After that leak, we did not ask the FBI to conduct an investigation. Instead, we reopened the hearing and assessed the testimony that was given on our own. As in 1991, it is now up for the Senate to gather and assess the relevant evidence." That from Chairman Grassley, a quote there in today's Wall Street Journal editorial. We are talking to Men Only this morning. What do you think about the confirmation of Judge Brett Kavanaugh? Should it happen or not? Yesterday, we talked to Women Only. Want to share a couple of the phone calls with you. We'll begin first with this woman who said a woman from Texas who said she opposes him.
I personally was forced when I was a girl, 15 years old. I became pregnant, and I spent 6 months of my life, 5 months of my life, in a home for unwed mothers in Los Angeles, California, Booth Memorial Hospital. I remember every detail. I remember everything about it. I don't remember the kind of car it happened in, and I've been to parties at people's houses that I don't remember at many times. People that I can't even remember, their addresses or the phone numbers of friends that I used to have. I am 76 years old, and I have seen how callous men can be toward women. They've been callous toward my cousin who was raped. They've been callous toward my daughter who was raped, took her in, the police investigated it, and they just dropped it. Men just simply do not understand the abuse that women have had to put up with for centuries. And it's high time this nation of ours looks at what's going on and realizes another 2-3 weeks, another year to get a Supreme Court justice. We waited all this time, a year, to give Trump a chance to nominate his first Supreme Court justice. There's no problem. 8 people on the court, they do quite nicely. And I am tired of this pushing through, and then when a woman does come forward on so many allegations, just like the women who've come forward for Bill Cosby and Donald Trump, and they are put in the gutter. They are shamed. Then you say, why doesn't a woman come forward and tell her story?
That was a caller from Texas yesterday when we talked to Women Only about Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation. Men Only this morning. Before we get back to those calls, though, here's another woman from yesterday who called from Louisiana in support of Judge Kavanaugh.
I wonder if these younger people remember Tawana Brawley, the lacrosse players, and lacrosse wasn't too long ago. How many of them are considering these women lied? Women lie just like men. Okay, it's not a fact that because you're a man, you can lie more. I've known women who have lied at divorce hearings, accusing their husbands of being either child predators or abusive or whatever, just so that they could get custody. Come on. I'd like everybody to use their common sense. You ruin a man's entire life. You ruin his reputation. And the whole point of it is they don't want him confirmed. Now, I consider you're a young man. How would you feel if just one accusation that something happened like 25 years ago and you lose your job over that? How fair is that? Do any of these people have some common sense? They have brothers, they have husbands, they have sons. How would you like it if that happened to your husband, brother, or son? And there's no way for him to refute it, because the lady can't even recall when it happened, where it happened, who was there, who wasn't there. This is a lot of nonsense. If you're going to ruin somebody's reputation and cause them to lose their job or whatever, you better have some facts.
A caller yesterday from Louisiana in support of Judge Brett Kavanaugh. We asked women yesterday to call in and give us their thoughts. Today we are hearing from men only. If you're under the age 30, 202-748-8000. Between the ages of 30 and 50, 202-748-8001. And those over 51, your number, 202-748-8002. Let's go to Lafayette and Bethesda, Maryland, over 51. Good morning. It's your turn. Caller in Bethesda, Maryland. Is it Lafayette? All right, let me go on to Don in Chesapeake, Virginia. Hi, Don.
Hi, how you doing?
Morning.
My point here is the guys went through 6 FBI checks already. Nothing has come out. Is impeccable. His reputation is impeccable. He has a great-looking family. And all these other women came forward and gave him a good appraisal. I mean, come on. If this woman is lying and it's all political, which I think it is, if she's lying, she needs to go to prison for a very, very long time.
And Don, what about the fact that she took a lie detector test, according to her lawyer?
She's a doctor. She's a doctor. She could take medications to control her blood pressure and all that. I mean, what kind of doctor is she? I haven't heard out, what kind of doctor she is.
Well, there's a story in the papers about her this morning and who she is. She's not a medical doctor. Let me find this for you, and we can read a little bit from it. But the story is about how she is dealing with this situation. So, but I don't believe she's a professor at a university. Again, I'll try to find that. We'll go to another call, and I'll try to find that. Let's go to Morris, who's in San Diego. Morris, good morning to you. Your turn. You're on the air.
Good morning, Greta.
Morning.
Well, I have a couple of things. One, I heard a few days ago about Judge Kavanaugh's mother foreclosing on the house of Dr. Ford's mother's house. I heard something about that. I don't know if it's true or not, but anyway, that would seem to be something along the lines of a motive. But also the Keith Ellison comparison, I think that's an excellent one. I don't know why more people are not upset about Keith Ellison. I mean, to look at the guy, you can tell he's fully capable of doing what his girlfriend accused him of. But anyway, the bottom line truth of this thing with Kavanaugh and Dr. Ford, it's not going to change one person's opinion in the entire country if she goes and testifies before Congress. Because they're not going to get to the bottom of it. We all know that. 35 years ago, I mean, get real. But anyway, he's going to ascend to the Supreme Court, and he's going to be an excellent Supreme Court justice. I hope that President Trump gets one more pick before he finishes his second term. And just to get off the subject for a second, I'll let you go. But,
okay, all right, Morris, I'm going to leave it there because there is news in the Washington Times this morning about Keith Ellison. The headline, woman feared retribution from Democrat Ellison. A 2017 medical document released Wednesday by Karen Moynihan said she feared retribution if she revealed her allegations of abuse against her former boyfriend, Democratic Rep. Keith Ellison. Ms. Moynihan posted the Minnesota Clinic's write-up from her visit to corroborate her accusations of physical and emotional abuse, which she made public in August and which Mr. Ellison has denied. When I post this, it gets deleted every time, she tweeted. The document from the Park Nicollet Clinic, dated November 28, 2017, says she was being treated for anemia and that she attributed it to the stress from her relationship with Mr. Ellison, which she has said ended in 2016. The medical report continued. She identifies the individual she was involved with as Congressman Ellison, and she is worried about retribution if she identifies him publicly. The release came after she tweeted Monday that she had provided medical records to the Minnesota Democratic Farmer Labor Party, which began investigating the charges last month. Mr. Ellison, who's giving up his congressional seat to run for Minnesota Attorney General, issued a statement last month confirming the relationship, but denying that he abused Ms. Moynihan, a Sierra Club organizer. Democrats have stood behind Mr. Ellison, who serves as deputy DNC chair, since she accused him last month of physical and emotional abuse during their 2-year relationship. This morning here on C-SPAN, we're going to be covering a discussion of sexual assault experts at the National Press Club in Washington discussing this allegation against Judge Brett Kavanaugh. That is live this morning at 10 a.m. Eastern. You can also go to cspan.org or listen with that free C-SPAN radio app. From the Wall Street Journal about Professor Ford, it says the accuser seen as thorough and guarded. Christine Blasey Ford sent an unusual Facebook message to her best college friend this summer with a question. Had she ever mentioned a sexual assault that occurred when she was in high school? Her friend, her one-time roommate at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, said she'd had no memory of that. She didn't know at the time that Dr. Ford was considering coming forward with her allegations that Supreme Court nominee Brett Kavanaugh had sexually assaulted her in the 1980s. Interviews with friends and acquaintances of Dr. Ford paint a picture of a guarded person, one more interested in discussions of sports and science than politics and personal trauma. Her decision to go public this week with the explosive accusation has thrust her into an uncomfortable spotlight and put her 3-decade-old memories at the center of the fight over the fate of President Trump's second Supreme Court nominee. It says also in this article that Dr. Ford, a 51-year-old research psychologist, said in a Washington Post article that she and Judge Kavanaugh were teenagers at a party in the early 1980s when he and a friend, whom she identified as Mark Judge, pulled her into a bedroom. And at the end of this story in the Wall Street Journal, a friend said that it was clear Dr. Ford remained traumatized decades later. Jim Gensheimer, a friend in Palo Alto, said she confided in him that she needed more than one exit door in her bedroom to prevent her from feeling trapped. Let's go to Stan in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Hi, Stan. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Thanks for C-SPAN. A reporter spoke to a former student at the school, and that student said that this incident was common knowledge and discussed among the students. I think that they should locate some of these students and interview them. That would probably eventually lead to the end of this.
Well, how so?
Well, I mean, that would establish that something happened and that the students there at the time knew what the incident was about, who was involved.
Okay.
So some of them are not willing to come forward, but I think if they persist, they could find some people that will speak about this.
Okay. Brent in Charleston, West Virginia. Hi, Brent. What do you think?
Good morning. Thank you for taking my call. I do believe that Judge Kavanaugh should be confirmed, and I want to remind everyone to be careful because what we're dealing with here is an environment where simply accusing anyone of anything, as long as the accused is of a particular party or political mindset, that is enough to destroy that person. And do you really want to live in a country, and can a country in that environment be truly free? But here's my point. I want everybody to stop for a moment and step back and look at what is happening to our nation right now. We are deliberately being distracted from discussing the important issues that surround any confirmation hearing or process for the Supreme Court of the United States. And it boils down to a series of questions. Number one, do you believe that the Constitution says what it means and means what it says? Number two, do you believe in the 10th Amendment? Do you know what the 10th Amendment says? And do you know why it's important that we have a 10th Amendment? Number three, are you really comfortable with 9 unelected judges dictating law, legislating for the entire country on issues like abortion, on issues like marriage, and others? Are you really comfortable with that when we are supposed to be living in a free, democratic republic? These are the questions that we should be discussing, not what happened in 1982 or whenever the accuser is saying. The Democrats are doing their best to delay this process because they want it stopped. They want it to take place after the election because they, for some reason, think that they have a chance at gaining a majority in the United States Senate, and then they can put the kibosh on all judicial nominations during this administration. That's what this is all about, folks. It's not about the accuser. It's not about sexual assault. It's not about 17-year-old drunken parties. It's not about any of this stuff. It's about we are being manipulated by people in a political party who do not want us to discuss the important issues because they know if we do, they lose.
Okay,
Thank
Brent.
you.
All right. The caller was referring earlier to this story on Fox News website. Brett Kavanaugh's mother is judge who dismissed a foreclosure action against accuser Ford's parents. The parents of the woman who is accusing Brett Kavanaugh of sexual misconduct have a connection to the Supreme Court nominee through his mother, a Maryland state judge. Martha Kavanaugh granted a motion dismissing a 1996 foreclosure action against Ralph and Paula Blasey. Christine Blasey Ford publicly came forward Sunday to accuse Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault decades ago. You can read more of this if you're interested if you go to foxnews.com. Don in Sumter, South Carolina. Hi, Don.
Good morning, Greta.
Good morning.
I would say a lot of partisan misinformation. God, I can't believe it. I agree totally with the guy from Connecticut. People are saying it's too long ago to investigate, but you can look into this. Grab a yearbook. The guy graduated from high school, randomly start talking to maybe 50 of his classmates. Now, are they going to tell the truth if they're under oath? They probably will, because they're not going to know what the other classmates are saying. So if they come out with "I don't remember" or tell some kind of protective lie, they have to be assured that all the other 50 guys are going to do the same thing. And when they start contradicting each other, you're going to get some straight information. So to say we cannot investigate because it's too long, that's nonsense. And I don't understand why they don't investigate.
Okay. Well, Don, the Wall Street Journal points out this morning. The Senate hasn't set a new date for the Judiciary Committee to vote. They were going to vote today before these accusations became public. But time is running short ahead of the new Supreme Court session. If the committee vote on the nomination were held Monday, Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell could then file for cloture Tuesday. That would start the clock on debate that would then lead to a procedural vote on Thursday and a final full Senate confirmation vote by late Friday, September 28th, assuming Democrats use all of their allotted time. The new Supreme Court term begins October 1st. Osaka in Gainesville, Georgia. Good morning to you. You're next.
Good morning, ma'am. Actually, I'm from Gainesville, Virginia.
Oh, Gainesville, Virginia. Okay.
That's fine. Thank you for taking my call. I have a couple of points on this. Several Republican-leaning people called in and said that this is pure political. And I want to remind them that pretty much everything that happens in Washington is political, barring maybe a few instances. And I also want to remind them when Obama nominated Merrick Garland, how the Republicans were playing politics with that and paid every delaying tactic not to appoint him. And the third point I have is that Judge Kavanaugh's appointment to the Supreme Court will be a lifetime appointment. And the Supreme Court of this country decides eventually the direction of this country it will take politically. Now, you think Washington is partisan? I even dare to say the Supreme Court is partisan. Look at what happened in 2000, Bush versus Gore. Almost every major decision in the Supreme Court has been divided along party lines too. So it's important that we send a person of the highest moral character to the Supreme Court. He's qualified. Anybody can be qualified. But qualification should include the moral character of the person. Maybe this happened 25 years ago, but that says a lot if it is proven of the character of the person that he takes throughout his life into the United States Supreme Court. And that's my point.
All right. Al in Watertown, Tennessee. What's your point, Al?
Yeah, thanks for taking my call. I've got a prediction for you. Miss Ford will never go on an official record with her claims. That is, she will not file a police report like the cop suggested, and she will not testify under oath because if she files a police report, she's subject to arrest for filing a false report. And if she sits down in front under oath, people are going to ask her questions that don't make sense, and she's going to have answers that probably don't make sense, and she's going to be under perjury issues. So what she is going to do here in about 2 weeks, you're going to see her on CNN, MSNBC, she'll be in the Washington Post, New York Times, and tell her story there. And nobody's going to ask her the hard questions. Nobody's going to ask her to substantiate anything. So the Democrats are going to get two things. They're going to get this confirmation hearing in the newspapers like they have for another 2 weeks, and then she's going to get to influence the elections that are coming up, and she's never going to be asked the hard questions and have to stand by them. That's my prediction.
Okay, Al. Will in Reynoldsburg, Ohio. Will, good morning.
Good morning, Thea. Good morning. It's really comical listening to these Republicans getting technical and giving all the technical reasons why Kavanaugh should be placed on a Supreme Court. When we look back, the reason the Democrats didn't get that person placed on there because it was before an election. We didn't want to put somebody on there before an election. Well, it doesn't matter now. But my point is this here. The Supreme Court is becoming so political. There will come a day when justices will be impeached because that's how this is the point we're getting to, where we're making it so political that the party in charge will get to the point, well, we don't care about this justice's opinion. Let's just impeach him and get somebody on there that we agree with. And that's where we're taking it because, for the most part, the Republican Party is becoming smaller and smaller. And so they're looking to control most of the populace through the judicial system. And it's not going to work because people are just going to, you're not going to control a majority of the population through the judicial because you're not going to let 3 people in Kansas tell 3 million in California how to live. So that's my opinion, and you can do what you want to with it, but we're going down a path that the Republicans might not want to be on. Thank you.
All right. Well, a few more minutes left here for your phone calls, men only this morning, and then after when we get to the top of the hour, we'll open up the conversation to men and women as we continue on the Washington Journal. Want to point out a front page story in the New York Times this morning, a special report by the newspaper, The Plot to Subvert an Election, Unraveling the Russia Story So Far. For 2 years, Americans have tried to absorb report after report on the details of Russia's intervention in the 2016 election. Hacked and leaked emails, widespread social media fraud, overtures from suspected Kremlin spies, and allegations of conspiracy. The clamor of partisan politics has taken a toll on public comprehension, as has President Trump's frequent claim that it is all a hoax. In a special report and multi-page timeline, the New York Times explores what we know and what it means, untangling the threads of the most effective foreign campaign in history to disrupt and influence an American election. So you can find that in the New York Times today. Sean in D.C. Hey, Sean, good morning. You're on the air.
Good morning. I definitely, as far as the situation goes right now, support the accuser. And I think it's interesting that, many folks who support Kavanaugh's nomination probably haven't heard of him before this summer. And so now all of a sudden this man is so gobsmackingly awesome and perfect for the court that we must confirm him as soon as possible. I say we've got a lot of talented judges out there. I think with this accusation muddling things up, I think we can definitely try to investigate and hold things for a little while. The second point that I like to make about this is the fact that if you know anything about the private school community in Washington, D.C., you know that there is a tremendous issue with alcohol and drug use. And so to say that this is not remotely within the realm of possibility, given the educational community in this vicinity, I think is ridiculous. This is absolutely something that could totally happen within private schools in this community.
Okay. Lawrence, who's also in Washington, D.C. Under 30, Lawrence, your turn.
Yes, good morning to
morning.
all of your viewers. My comment is based upon moralities. And I don't understand how Americans have forgotten that morality and spirituality. And I challenge every male and female to think about their morality. This is no longer political. This is morals. When we cannot stand up as men and women in America and decide that when a man suggests that he can get away with violating a woman, that we look at him from a political standpoint and not a moral standpoint. It's just so unbelievable that we have come to this. Men and women in America, step up and find your morality and your spirituality.
Okay, Lawrence, I'm going to leave it there. We're going to take a break.